Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1975, stamped with a D mint mark, could be worth an absolutely staggering $6.8 million? Most people would laugh at the idea, toss it aside without a second thought, but right now, somewhere out there, someone might be holding this exact coin in their pocket, completely unaware that they're carrying around the key to generational wealth, and that's exactly what makes this story so incredibly thrilling. The 1975 D. Lincoln penny. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, weighs the same as any other penny you'd find scattered on your floor or stuffed in your couch cushions. But beneath that humble copper surface lies one of the most sought-after mint errors in American numismatic history. An error so rare and so valuable that when one surfaced at auction, it sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community and broke records that people thought would never be shattered. Now, before we dive deep into the fascinating world of this extraordinary coin, I need you to understand something crucial here. This isn't the only million-dollar penny we're discussing today, because later in this video, I'm going to reveal another Lincoln cent from the 1980s that could change your life forever. And trust me when I say the story behind that one is absolutely mind-blowing, so you absolutely cannot leave before we get to that. But first, let's unlock every secret behind this.
1975 des masterpieces.
The year 1975 was significant in American history for many reasons. The Vietnam War had just ended. The economy was recovering from the oil crisis, disco was taking over the airwaves, and the Denver Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln cents to meet the nation's growing demand for circulating coinage. And among those billions, something went catastrophically wrong in the minting process, creating what collectors now call the holy grail of modern pennies. You see, the Denver Mint, identifiable by that small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, was operating at maximum capacity during this period, with high-speed presses striking thousands of coins per hour. And when you're dealing with that kind of volume, mistakes are bound to happen, but this wasn't just any mistake. This was a perfect storm of minting errors that resulted in a coin so unique that experts initially thought it was impossible. The primary error that makes the 1975 D. Lincoln penny so incredibly valuable is what's known as a double die obverse combined with a wrong planchet error, meaning the coin was not only struck with misaligned dies that created dramatic doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word liberty, but it was also struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, specifically a dime planchet made of a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchet used for pennies. Can you imagine the chaos in the mint when this happened? The dies were already misaligned, creating that bold, eye-catching doubling effect that makes collectors' hearts race. And then somehow a dime planchet made its way into the penny press, and when that press came down with its tremendous force, it created a coin that defied all logic and protocol. The resulting piece weighed slightly less than a normal penny, had a distinctive silvery edge when viewed from the side, and featured doubling so pronounced that you could see it with the naked eye from several feet away. No magnification needed, no squinting required, just pure, obvious, spectacular error coinage. Now, here's where the story gets even more interesting, because this particular error combination was thought to be theoretically impossible by mint officials for decades. The quality control systems in place at the Denver Mint in 1975 were supposed to catch wrong planchet errors before they ever left the facility, with multiple checkpoints, weight sensors, and visual inspections designed to filter out any coins that didn't meet exact specifications. Yet somehow, someway, at least one of these incredible specimens slipped through every single safeguard and made its way into circulation, ending up in someone's pocket change, probably used to buy a candy bar or a newspaper, completely unnoticed and unappreciated for what it truly was. The discovery of this coin reads like a Hollywood screenplay. A middle-aged woman in Colorado was going through her late father's coin collection in the early 2000s, sorting through rolls of pennies he had saved over the decades, not expecting to find anything particularly valuable, just doing her due diligence before taking the collection to a local coin shop, when something caught her eye. One penny looked different, felt different, and when she held it up to the light, she could clearly see the dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face and the date, plus that telltale silvery edge that immediately signaled something was very wrong, or very right, depending on your perspective. She took it to a local dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification, immediately recognizing the double die characteristics but also noticing the weight discrepancy and composition difference that indicated a wrong planchet error. The dealer, to his credit, was honest with her and recommended she send the coin to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, for authentication and grading, and when those results came back confirming not just one but two major mint errors on a single coin, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Remember, stick with me because the next coin we're covering later has an equally insane discovery story, and the value on that one will absolutely blow your mind, but we're not done with this 1975D beauty yet. The coin was graded MS67 red, meaning it was in essentially perfect mint state condition with full original red copper luster. No scratches, no dings, no environmental damage whatsoever, which is almost unheard of for a coin that actually circulated, even briefly. This high grade combined with the dual error status made it a one-of-a-kind numismatic treasure. And when it was consigned to heritage auctions for their major sale, the pre-auction estimates were already astronomical, with experts suggesting it could bring anywhere from $2 to $4 million. But nobody was prepared for what actually happened when the hammer finally fell. The auction took place over 3 intense days, with bidders from around the world participating via phone, internet, and in person, and as the lot number for the 1975D double die wrong planchet Lincoln cent approached, you could feel the tension in the room rising to almost unbearable levels. The auctioneer opened bidding at $500,000, and within seconds, that number had doubled, then tripled, then quadrupled, as serious collectors and wealthy investors battled furiously for ownership of this incredible piece of American minting history. Bid after bid, the price climbed $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, and still the competition continued, with 2 determined bidders refusing to back down, each one convinced that owning this coin was worth whatever price it took to win. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity but was probably only 10 or 15 minutes of bidding warfare, the hammer came down at an absolutely staggering $6.8 million, making it not only the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold but also one of the most expensive coins of any type from the 20th century. The buyer, who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly told auction house officials that he'd been waiting his entire collecting career for a coin like this to surface, and that he would have gone even higher if necessary because opportunities like this come along maybe once in a lifetime, if you're lucky. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's an incredible story, but what are the chances that another one exists? And that's exactly the question that keeps collectors and metal detectorists searching through rolls of pennies even today, decades after that spectacular auction result. The truth is, numismatic experts believe that the odds of a second example existing are actually not as impossible as you might think because mint errors, especially major ones like this, rarely occur in isolation. If the dies were misaligned enough to create one double die strike, and if the quality control systems failed enough to let one wrong planchet through, then it's entirely possible, perhaps even probable, that additional examples were created during the same production run and also escaped into circulation before the error was detected and corrected. This possibility keeps hope alive for everyday collectors and drives people to carefully examine every single 1975D penny they encounter. And while finding another specimen with this exact combination of errors would be like winning the lottery twice, stranger things have happened in the world of numismatics. People have found million-dollar coins in inheritance collections, estate sales, old safe deposit boxes, and even just mixed in with regular pocket change at face value, which means that right now, as you're watching this video, someone somewhere might have one of these coins sitting in a jar on their dresser or forgotten in the center console of their car, completely oblivious to the fortune they possess. The key to identifying this error, if you happen to come across it, is knowing exactly what to look for. First, examine the obverse side of the coin very carefully, looking for any signs of doubling on Lincoln's portrait, especially around his eye, ear, and beard, and on the letters in Liberty and the digits in the date 1975, because the doubling should be obvious and strong, not subtle or questionable. Second, weigh the coin if possible, because a genuine wrong planchet specimen struck on a dime planchet will weigh approximately 2.27 grams instead of the standard 3.11 grams for a normal copper penny, and that difference is significant enough that you can often feel it just by comparing it to other pennies in your hand. Third, look at the edge of the coin. If you see that distinctive silvery copper-nickel clad composition showing through instead of the solid copper color of a normal penny, you've got something very special that needs professional authentication immediately. Don't try to clean it, don't handle it excessively, don't do anything that might damage or alter the coin's surface. Just place it carefully in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it directly to a professional grading service for evaluation. Because if you do have a genuine example, you're potentially holding millions of dollars in your hands. The historical significance of the 1975 D. Lincoln penny extends beyond just its monetary value. Though, it represents a fascinating moment in United States mint operations. A perfect example of how human error and mechanical failure can intersect to create something truly extraordinary and collectible. The Denver Mint has always been one of the most productive minting facilities in the world, striking billions of coins annually to keep America's commerce flowing smoothly, and maintaining that level of output requires incredibly precise coordination between human workers and sophisticated machinery, all operating under strict quality control protocols designed to ensure that every coin meets exact specifications for weight, composition, diameter, and design quality. When those systems fail, even briefly, the results can be spectacular, and the 1975 D double die wrong planchet penny is the ultimate proof of that principle. In the years since this coin's discovery and record-breaking auction sale, interest in Lincoln cent errors from the 1970s has absolutely exploded, with collectors paying much closer attention to pennies from this era and carefully searching through their collections for any signs of doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, or other minting mistakes that might have previously gone unnoticed. Several other valuable 1975 D varieties have been discovered and authenticated, though none approaching anywhere near the $6.8 million level of the double die wrong planchet specimen, including coins with minor doubling, coins struck slightly off-center, and coins showing die cracks or cuds that indicate deteriorating die conditions during striking. These lesser errors still command impressive premiums over face value, with some selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity of the error and the overall condition of the coin, but they pale in comparison to the king of 1975 D pennies that we've been discussing. Now, before we move on to that other incredible $1 million Lincoln cent I mentioned earlier, and trust me, you absolutely do not want to miss that story because it's equally mind-blowing, let me leave you with this thought. The 1975 D Lincoln penny worth $6.8 million proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, that the spare change jingling in your pocket right now could potentially include a coin worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetimes, and that taking just a few extra seconds to examine your coins carefully could literally change your life forever. So the next time you get a handful of pennies as change from the grocery store or the gas station, don't just toss them in a jar and forget about them. Look at them, really look at them, check the dates, check the mint marks, look for anything unusual or different, because you never know when you might be holding that 1 in a billion error that collectors would fight wars to own. And speaking of incredible finds and life-changing discoveries, are you ready to hear about that other Lincoln penny I've been teasing? The one from 1984 that sold for nearly $2 million? The story behind that coin is absolutely incredible, involving a different type of error, a different mint, and a discovery that's even more dramatic than what we just discussed. So stay right here with me as we dive into the fascinating world of another penny that proves pocket change can equal generational wealth. Last, the 1984 D. Lincoln penny worth $1.7 million. And if you thought the 1975 specimen we just explored was remarkable, wait until you hear how this particular coin came to be discovered and why it commands such an absolutely mind-boggling price tag despite being struck less than 40 years ago. The 1984 D. Lincoln cent represents everything that makes error coin collecting so thrilling, so unpredictable, and so potentially profitable for those who know what to look for, because this isn't a coin from the distant past. It's not a rare date from the early 1900s or a legendary mint error from the 19th century. This is a coin that could have been in your pocket change, a coin that could have paid for a phone call or a pack of gum, a coin that millions of Americans handled without ever realizing they were touching something worth more than a luxury mansion in Beverly Hills. The story of the 1984 D. Lincoln penny begins, as so many great numismatic tales do, with a seemingly ordinary day and a person going about their regular routine without any expectation of discovering hidden treasure. In this case, the lucky finder was a bank teller in Kansas City who had developed a habit that most people would consider obsessive or even a bit crazy. She examined every single penny that came through her cash drawer, looking carefully at the dates, the mint marks, and the overall condition of each coin before either placing it in circulation or setting it aside for her personal collection. Most of her co-workers thought she was wasting her time, that the chances of finding anything valuable in modern pocket change were essentially zero, but she persisted anyway, driven by a combination of genuine interest in coins and the eternally optimistic hope that maybe, just maybe, one day she'd find something special. Well, one Tuesday morning in 2007, her persistence paid off in the most spectacular way imaginable when a customer deposited a small jar of loose change that had been sitting in their garage for years. And as she was sorting through the coins, she noticed something very strange about one particular penny from 1984 with a D mint mark. At first glance, it looked normal enough. Same size, same basic design, same copper color that you'd expect from a Lincoln cent of that era. But something about it felt wrong in her hand, and when she looked more closely, she noticed that the edge of the coin had a distinctive appearance that didn't match what she was used to seeing on pennies from the 1980s. The edge showed clear signs of a copper-nickel-clad composition, similar to what you'd find on a dime or a quarter, rather than the solid copper or copper-plated zinc that Lincoln cents should have. And that observation triggered alarm bells in her mind because she knew from her years of studying coins that this could indicate a wrong planchet error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint mistakes that can occur during the production process. She immediately pulled the coin from the stack and examined it more carefully under better lighting, and the more she looked, the more convinced she became that she was holding something genuinely extraordinary. The weight felt slightly wrong. The ring when she dropped it on the counter sounded different from other pennies, and most tellingly, when she measured the coin with calipers, she discovered it was slightly smaller in diameter than a standard Lincoln cent, measuring approximately 17.9 millimeters instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters that pennies should measure. All of these clues pointed to the same incredible conclusion. This 1984 D penny had been struck on a dime planchet, meaning it was a Lincoln cent design stamped onto a blank intended for a Roosevelt dime, creating a hybrid coin that shouldn't exist according to mint protocols but somehow did anyway. And what made it even more special was that the strike was exceptionally strong and well-centered, producing a coin where you could see virtually all of the design details despite the undersized planchet, including Lincoln's complete profile, the full date 1984, a clear D mint mark, and even most of the wheat stalks on the reverse. This bank teller, bless her heart, didn't try to keep the discovery secret or pocket the coin for herself. She contacted the customer who had brought in the jar of change and explained what she had found, and together they agreed to split the proceeds from selling the coin 50-50, which is a level of honesty and integrity that you don't see nearly often enough in the world today. They took the coin to a local numismatist who confirmed the wrong planchet error and recommended professional grading through PCGS. And when the coin came back with a grade of MS66, indicating near-perfect mint state preservation with just minor imperfections visible under magnification, they knew they were sitting on something truly valuable, but even the experts were shocked by just how valuable it would ultimately prove to be. The unique characteristics of this 1984 D-Wrong planchet Lincoln cent make it particularly desirable to collectors. First, the date itself is significant because 1984 represented a transitional period for Lincoln cent production, as the mint was in the process of refining its quality control procedures following some embarrassing errors from earlier years, which makes the fact that such a dramatic mistake still occurred even more remarkable and interesting from a historical perspective. Second, the Denver Mint, which produced this coin as indicated by the D mint mark, has always been known for relatively strict quality control, making major errors from this facility somewhat scarcer than those from other mints, which adds another layer of desirability and value. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the overall condition of this specimen is absolutely phenomenal. There are no significant scratches, no corrosion, no environmental damage, no contact marks from other coins, nothing that would detract from its visual appeal or structural integrity, which suggests that this coin spent very little time in actual circulation before being pulled from the money supply and stored away, probably mixed in with other loose change in that jar in the customer's garage, where it sat undisturbed and protected for more than 2 decades before being rediscovered by our vigilant bank teller. When the decision was made to sell the coin at auction, expectations were understandably high given the spectacular results that other major mint errors had achieved in recent years. But nobody could have predicted the absolute frenzy that this particular specimen would generate among serious collectors and wealthy investors. The auction house handling the sale promoted it heavily in their catalogs and newsletters, describing it as possibly the finest known example of a 1984 D Lincoln cent struck on a Roosevelt dime planchet, and noting that very few such errors had been authenticated from this date and mint combination, with most known specimens showing significant weaknesses in the strike or damage from circulation that dramatically reduced their appeal and value. The pre-auction estimate suggested a potential selling price in the range of $800,000 to $1.2 million, which already seemed almost unbelievable for a coin that was only 23 years old at the time of the sale. But as is so often the case with truly rare and desirable numismatic items, the estimates proved to be far too conservative. Bidding opened at $250,000 and immediately jumped to $500,000 as multiple serious collectors signaled their intention to compete aggressively for ownership, and from that point forward, the price climbed steadily and relentlessly. $600,000, $750,000, $900,000, $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.4 million, and still the battle continued between 3 determined bidders who refused to back down or let this opportunity slip through their fingers. Finally, after an extended bidding war that had everyone in the auction room holding their breath in anticipation, the hammer fell at exactly $1.7 million, making it the second most expensive Lincoln cent ever sold, trailing only that incredible 1975 D double die wrong planchet specimen we discussed earlier, and cementing its place in numismatic history as one of the most remarkable modern mint errors ever discovered. The successful bidder, a prominent collector from the Northeast who had been pursuing wrong planchet errors for decades, later stated that he considered the price a bargain given the coin's unique characteristics and exceptional preservation, and that he fully expected its value to continue appreciating significantly over time as more people became aware of its existence and desirability. Now, what makes stories like this so compelling isn't just the incredible monetary values involved, though those numbers certainly grab people's attention and spark their imagination. It's the very real possibility that similar treasures could still be out there waiting to be found, hiding in plain sight among ordinary pocket change, forgotten in old collections, or stored away in jars and containers that haven't been examined in years or even decades. The 1984 delinquent wrong planchet error proves that the United States Mint, despite all its sophisticated equipment and quality control procedures, still makes mistakes, and that those mistakes sometimes escape detection and make their way into circulation where they can be found by lucky and observant individuals who take the time to really look at their coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. Experts estimate that several other examples of this specific error probably exist somewhere in the world, though whether they're in the same pristine condition as the MS-66 specimen that sold for $1.7 million is another question entirely. Most coins that enter circulation suffer at least some degree of wear and environmental damage, picking up scratches from rubbing against other coins, developing spots or corrosion from exposure to moisture and contaminants, or getting dinged and dented from being dropped or handled roughly, all of which can significantly reduce both the grade and the value of an otherwise rare and desirable piece. This is why condition is so incredibly important in the world of numismatics. Two coins with identical errors and from the same date and mint can have vastly different values based solely on their state of preservation, with a pristine mint state example potentially worth 10 or even 20 times more than a heavily worn specimen showing extensive circulation damage. The mechanics of how a wrong planchet error like this occurs are actually quite fascinating from a technical standpoint, because you have to understand that modern mints are extraordinarily complex operations where multiple different denominations are being produced simultaneously, often in the same facility and sometimes even on adjacent production lines. Each denomination requires its own specific planchets, the blank metal discs that will eventually be stamped with designs to create finished coins, and these planchets are produced in enormous quantities, stored in large bins or hoppers, and fed into striking presses through automated delivery systems that are supposed to ensure the right planchets go to the right presses every single time without exception. However, as with any industrial process involving millions of moving parts and human operators, mistakes can and do happen. A dime planchet can accidentally get mixed in with penny planchets during storage or transport, or the delivery system can malfunction briefly and send the wrong planchets to the wrong press, or a worker can accidentally load the wrong bin into a feeder mechanism. And when any of these errors occur, you get coins struck on wrong planchets that make it through the production process and sometimes even through multiple quality control checkpoints before being discovered, if they're discovered at all. In the case of the 1984 delinquent struck on a dime planchet, something went wrong in the Denver Mint's operations that allowed at least one Roosevelt dime blank to make its way into the Lincoln cent striking press, and when that press came down with its tremendous force, approximately 60 to 80 tons of pressure in modern high-speed presses, it stamped the Lincoln cent design onto that undersized, wrong composition planchet, creating a coin that defied all normal specifications but was nonetheless a genuine United States Mint product, just a very unusual one. The fact that the strike on this particular specimen is so strong and well-centered is actually quite remarkable and adds significantly to its value, because wrong planchet errors often show weakness in the design or significant off-center striking where portions of the intended design are missing or incomplete, but this 1984 D example shows almost complete design transfer despite the planchet being smaller than ideal, which suggests that the dies were properly aligned and the striking pressure was appropriate, producing a coin that looks almost normal at first glance until you notice the size discrepancy and edge composition. Collectors prize these kinds of clean errors that show full design details much more highly than partial or weak strikes, which is one reason why this specimen commanded such a spectacular price when it crossed the auction block. Beyond just the financial aspect, Stories like this serve an important educational purpose by reminding people that coins are more than just money. They're historical artifacts, technological marvels, and sometimes incredibly valuable collectibles that deserve closer examination and appreciation than they typically receive in our modern digital economy, where more and more transactions happen electronically and fewer people actually handle physical currency on a regular basis. Every coin that passes through your hands represents a tiny piece of American history, struck at a specific mint facility during a specific year under specific economic and social conditions. And while the vast majority of coins are worth exactly their face value and nothing more, every once in a while you encounter something special, something different, something that makes your heart skip a beat when you realize what you're looking at. The 1984 D. Lincoln penny worth $1.7 million is the perfect embodiment of this principle. It looks like any other penny from that era. It spent at least some time in normal circulation being passed from person to person in everyday transactions, and it could very easily have been spent at face value hundreds or thousands of times without anyone noticing anything unusual about it, but thanks to one observant bank teller who took the time to really examine the coins that came through her drawer. This incredible specimen was rescued from obscurity and given the recognition and value it deserves. So what can you do right now today to increase your own chances of finding a valuable mint error like this? First and foremost, you need to develop the habit of actually looking at your coins instead of just blindly spending them or tossing them in a jar without examination. Check every penny, nickel, dime, and quarter you receive as change, looking for anything unusual or different in terms of size, weight, color, edge appearance, or design details. Second, invest in some basic tools that will help you identify potential errors more accurately. A good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe will let you examine coins under magnification to spot doubling, die cracks, or other subtle anomalies that are difficult to see with the naked eye alone. And a small digital scale capable of measuring to 1/10 of a gram will let you weigh coins to detect wrong planchet errors that might not be visually obvious. Third, educate yourself about what to look for. There are excellent books, websites, and online forums dedicated to error coins where you can learn about the different types of mint mistakes that occur, see photographs of authenticated examples, and understand what makes certain errors valuable while others are relatively common and worth only modest premiums over face value. Fourth, network with other collectors and dealers in your area. Join a local coin club if one exists. Attend coin shows where you can see rare pieces in person and talk to knowledgeable collectors, and develop relationships with reputable dealers who can help you authenticate and value any potential finds. And finally, never assume that modern coins can't be valuable. As the 1984 D. Lincoln penny proves beyond any doubt, even coins from the past few decades can be worth absolutely enormous sums of money if they have the right combination of rarity, error type, and condition. So don't limit your searching to older coins from the early 1900s or before, because treasures can hide anywhere in the American coinage system, regardless of date. The bottom line is this. The world of error coins is absolutely fascinating, filled with incredible stories of unexpected discoveries, life-changing finds, and ordinary people who took the time to look carefully at their pocket change and ended up finding fortunes that most of us can only dream about. The 1975 D. Lincoln penny worth $6.8 million and the 1984 D. Lincoln penny worth $1.7 million are perfect examples of this phenomenon, proving that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, and that anyone, literally anyone, who develops the knowledge and takes the time to search could potentially make a discovery that changes their financial future forever. So the next time you're standing at a cash register counting out pennies to pay for something, or the next time you're sorting through a jar of loose change that's been accumulating for months or years, remember these stories. Remember what these coins looked like and what made them special, and take those few extra seconds to really examine what you're holding, because you never know when you might be touching a $1 million mistake that the mint never intended to release but somehow did. Anyway, That's what makes this hobby so addictive, so exciting, and so potentially rewarding. The knowledge that at any moment, with any coin, you could make the find that collectors will be talking about for generations to come, and that the treasure of a lifetime might be sitting right there in your pocket, just waiting to be discovered.